Nobody else won't really know what it is. It's
Mhm.
like, let's see. Which one of y'all? Mine is 12, so he still makes those same noises.
Uh-huh.
All right, and we're live. Welcome,
Awesome.
you guys, to Urbanish Digital Live. Hope you guys are out there saying COVID-19 safe. My spiel I always give. You're not around soap and water. Make sure you have hand sanitizer, you wearing your face mask, and stand 6 distance apart from other people as well while you're out. So today we have the pleasure um, of speaking with and interviewing Mr. Chris Anthony Hamilton. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little bit jealous because you always you got me stuck over here in Georgia.
Yeah, I was just there myself not too long ago. So now I got here about 2 weeks ago. I'm near Verona, Italy in the north. And yeah, my quarantine here ends tomorrow, technically. So I've been kind of on lockdown since I got here a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Awesome. So, let people know who you are, and the kind of things you do. Let's start off with that.
Yeah, sure. Chris Anthony Hamilton. I'm a film director, commercial director, and cinematographer based between Atlanta, Georgia, and here in Italy and Europe. And yeah, I've got a few films, short films now that I made after arriving in Atlanta in 2015, and been very, very fortunate to have had the opportunity to join up with a production company, a commercial production company called Bark Bark, where I do my commercial directing, branded content, promos, things like that as well. Originally from Massachusetts, and then went to film school in New York and lived there in Brooklyn for 8 years before making my way down to Atlanta. And yeah, I had the chance to work with my heroes while I was living and working there, Ava DuVernay and Spike Lee, and even Thomas Jefferson Bird, who we just lost over the weekend in
Right.
Atlanta. Yeah, I got the chance to work with Mr. Bird and Spike Lee on a film of Spike's called The Sweet Blood of Jesus, which and I'll never forget the day that Thomas Jefferson Bird was on set. It was an absolute joy to see him work, to see him improvise, just to see a master in the flesh doing what he does best. Yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, those experiences helped kind of form the film director I became, that I am today. And it's been a really, really exciting journey that's taken me all the way across the pond to Europe.
Awesome. Right. You live in the dream, not even the American.
Yeah.
Almost. It's the I can't even call it black people, but the people of color. So let's get into. You mentioned a couple of short films that you worked on, and congratulations to you and the crew on all the awards that you guys that I see coming through. I'll be watching you work. Of course, the crew that you have here in Atlanta have been working diligently and making sure things are happening as well. So let us know about Body and Son. What is that about?
Body and Son is the most recent of the three films that I wrote and directed. It's the story of a young boy named Deshaun, who's 9 years old, lives with a single mom, and he makes kind of an unusual friend when he discovers a dead body not far from his school, and he confides in it and talks to it about some of the trials and tribulations that he's going through. He's being bullied at school. Is the kids who used to be his friends the year before aren't his friends anymore, and he just doesn't see a lot of positive role models in his life around him in his neighborhood. The he's walking to school and cops drive by, and a white cop looks at him with that kind of perp look, and yeah, he struggles with what it means to be a young black boy in America today, essentially. And so the idea of him confiding in this body in desperate search really for a father figure is something that, spoke to me in a way when I wrote the film about 10 years ago now that unfortunately still rings true in a lot of ways today, in ways that one would have hoped that we would have made strides in progressing from, but that journey is very long and hard, and we're kind of still in the midst of it. So anyway, he comes home one day and he hears the voice of a man in his house talking to his mom. He goes inside, and the man claims to be his father. He tells him that he's his father, and he's confused by it, having really no recollection of who this person is, and yeah, things kind of get dramatic from there. So I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it's the story of this young boy and kind of the situation that he finds himself in, where he's really not sure what direction to go in at a young age, and he's got a lot of pressure on him, pressure that the world has put on him from birth.
Right. Wow. So what type of space were you in when you created Body and Soul?
Well, so like I said, I wrote the film about 10 years ago when I was living in Brooklyn. When I first got there, I was living in Bed-Stuy, and after growing up in a small town in Massachusetts, like a predominantly white town, even though I was born in New York, my parents moved our family to Massachusetts to provide, more kind of opportunities than were necessarily available for me, not just for me, but for my parents as well, somewhere else. So, and I'm grateful to them for that, because to me, the Body and Son and Deshaun, the main character, really kind of embodies almost like an alternate reality of what my life could have been if we had stayed in New York, if maybe my dad hadn't stayed around, you know what I mean? Like, so by the time I got to Brooklyn, that's kind of what I was seeing. It was out on the streets, on my street where I lived in Bed-Stuy. I saw a lot of single moms, sitting on stoops, raising their kids kind of from the stoop, and there was a police presence around the neighborhood, that something I was not really accustomed to where I grew up. So it was a very different kind of weighted experience that than what I was accustomed to growing up. Even though I spent a lot of time in the Bronx growing up, which is where my grandparents lived, so I was accustomed to urban life, but seeing it every day in front of me made me realize what direction my life could have gone in if things had just been slightly different. So seeing that inspired me to write the film and to kind of explore the story of the alternate version of myself that maybe wasn't quite as fortunate as I ended up being. So that was kind of the inspiration. And it really wasn't until I got to Atlanta and essentially found my tribe, the cast, Tia L'Oreal, who was the star of my first short that I made in Atlanta called Something Bigger. She plays Janet, who plays the mom. It was the mom, Deshaun's mom in the film. And then Keith Douglas, who plays the father. I met him not long after I moved to Atlanta, and he ended up being one of the stars of my second short film called Broken Branches. And it just so happened that the two of them, once I had the opportunity to work with each of them, it just all clicked that they were the people that were meant to play the mom and the dad in this film that I had written so long ago. And then DJ Watts, who plays Sean, the lead role, we cast him, but it was, he walked in with the role. It was that kind of situation. And I could not have been more grateful. And his experience, his personal experience, is really what gives the character the reality, the weight, the authenticity that brings, that carries the whole story, that carries the whole film. So yeah, I'm hopeful that it was a good experience for him, that it was cathartic, in terms of helping him just kind of grapple with, his own traumas, his own personal experiences that he has struggled with at a young age also.
Right. Awesome. It's funny that you say when you talk about that could have been, if your life would have been slightly different, that so many of us I don't think we're appreciative enough of the things that our parents do for us and the lives that they do give us, where we aren't stuck in a certain lifestyle. And not saying that you won't ever get out of it, but that imprint of body and son to a young black male in the United States is very impressionable, and it
Yeah.
leads them to like where it's not any real hope. Seeing that because a lot of people don't understand that small percentage of just living in urban areas is really like the rest of the world, it's just a small percentage. And it leaves the impression on so many of us that are people of color that we get stuck in survivor mode,
Exactly.
And then I think like with single mothers or single fathers, a lot of them, they get stuck in survivor mode as well. So they're not pursuing their dreams, outside
Right.
of raising children. And so, because children, to me, they live up to what they see and not what you tell them.
That's right.
And so, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and that's a big part of it. Yeah, it's just, the imagery that Deshaun is seeing around him is what influences ultimately his behavior. Because the images that and not just the images that he sees, but also the way that the world perceives him. So the police officer that's glaring at him driving by while he's just walking to school with a backpack on, it's that kind of pressure that I think molds a lot of people of color as they're growing up in this world where there's just not a lot of reinforcement of positive images of people that look like us. And I know that was certainly the case for me. Growing up in a white town, I felt like I was accepted to a large degree. However, it still was not an atmosphere where I felt like myself. Like you know what I mean? Like I didn't have a lot of images that were relatable to me around me all the time. And in there, I grew up in the late 80s and throughout the 90s. And at that time, there were not a ton of, really deep, layered images of people of color on television and movies, even. And Spike Lee was one of those inspirational auteurs and voices that showed me what the real breadth and width of Black culture really looks like from our perspective. And, so that was a game changer for me. It completely opened my eyes to who I really was. And because I was the only Black kid in my class every year growing up, I couldn't really relate those thoughts, those feelings to my peers because they couldn't relate to it, So again, it wasn't until I got to not even Brooklyn, it wasn't until I got into Atlanta where I was really surrounded by people that were like-minded, that came from a lot of varied backgrounds, that looked like me, that were passionate about film, about the arts. Where I could really start to relate to people, like in my 30s, so that was like a third of my life had gone by before I really felt like I was living in my own skin. And this film is a result of that.
Wow. That was a mouthful. Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Because I was born and raised in Atlanta. So as I got older and I got to travel, like, the states here in the United States or whatever, and like you said, like most of the places I was the only woman of color, in the jobs that I was taking on when I stayed in California or when I was in Omaha or like even New York, because I was in Spanish Harlem,
Yep.
So a lot of them, they say that they're Afro Latino, but it's nothing like being in Atlanta, like the experience that I had where I got to see people that were reflective of me and they're driving down the streets in Benz or BMW, not saying the materialistic things, but just to see the wealth of
Exactly.
our community, and it made me, as I talk to people like yourself and other people, when they come here, they'd be like Chocolate City, and I'd be like, what? you
Hmm.
know, and then being able to grow business wise,
Yeah,
um, like from scratch, from like literally nothing, and then like you said, gaining your tribe and still moving on. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think we take it for granted as well, being from Atlanta. Cause I'd be like, oh, I don't see,
Listen,
yeah.
yeah, well, it's so interesting because I feel very fortunate to have come to Atlanta from an outsider's perspective,
Right,
from coming all the way from really, white America growing up until the age of
right,
18, through college and living and working in New York, where yes, New York is a very diverse city, but it is, I mean, it's diverse, but it's not integrated in the way that you might expect in a lot of ways. So, for
right,
example, working there, the only black crew, like fully black crew I really worked on was Spike's crew. That was majority black, or at least a plurality of black folks. A lot of the
right,
commercials, I spent most of my time working on commercials as a camera assistant in New York coming up, for the 8 years that I was there. Most of those crews were white,
right,
with the exception of, like, there'd be like a bunch of Crips and electrics that would run together consistently
right,
on crews. So I would see them together on a job, and they would go to the next job together. And if I wasn't on that job, I wouldn't see black folks that much. There'd be like
right,
one or two of us sprinkled around.
right,
So New York is not Chocolate City the way Atlanta is. With the
right,
history that it has.
right,
So coming to Atlanta, I was really taken aback by how different it felt, how different the environment, the ambiance, the sentiment was, to be in a city that is genuinely an immersively black cultural, kind of mecca for people of color, for Afro Americans, and that was something that I was not fully prepared for, but in the most beautiful way, because it was like my heart burst open,
right,
with the people that I was meeting, who were proud of being from Atlanta, who really represented the city in a way, like you're talking about, just various levels of Black life.
right,
Something that I just had never really gotten to see up close. So to see that kind of real depth, and variety and inclusiveness, and to be like, to take it for granted that I am accepted, is something that
right.
I was not really prepared for. Um, and it completely changed my life for the better.
Wow. So let's get into um the next thing. Well, I know that you and I had the pleasure of interviewing you before when I was on radio as well. So now that we're on live, I want to talk about the post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yeah.
So that is something that so many of us take lightly.
Right.
I don't think we know the in depth of what slavery really did. And then not only just like the slavery part, but for us as people of color to still be going through it.
Exactly.
So, and that's the thing. And I'm like, how can you get over something when you're still putting the people through it?
That's
And it's still
exactly it.
toxic environment.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's like, to me, first of all, I had never heard the term until I came here, and was approached by Jason Louder, who, was an actor who's very well known in Atlanta. And he approached me about creating a film to include within, the collective, of films and filmmakers called Sour Milk. So he pitched it to me as, being, an anthology of films, all speaking on the theme of post-traumatic slave syndrome. And he said that, and I had never heard that term before, but I immediately recognized it and, internalized its meaning. And for anybody who doesn't know, post-traumatic slave syndrome is the etiology that explains the behavior of the adaptive behaviors of African American people as a result of chattel slavery. So, and its aftermath. So basically, everything that is incorporated in Afro-American life as a result of generations of slavery and all of the repercussions after the end of slavery, how we have adapted our behaviors and our psychology in order to continue to survive as a result of that. And as you said, it is something that we are continuing to suffer from while we are on our own attempting to heal from it. You know what I mean? So it's like, to me, it's like being shot in the leg and then told to run a race, and you're still there bleeding on the track, and trying to keep up. And we are the ones that are trying to really move forward in the healing process on our own. Like we're not. And to me, the term post-traumatic slave syndrome, which was coined by Dr. Joy DeGruy, who wrote the book on post-traumatic slave syndrome and really defined it through years and years of research. To me, just having that term to point to as a way of kind of explaining and explicating all of the feelings, the experiences that I've had that I haven't been able to put my finger on, to give a name to. It was an eye-opening experience, because it's like getting a diagnosis that allows you to literally begin the healing and treatment process. Because okay, so now I know what I have. Now I know what I'm actually going through. So now together we can talk through what are the steps to begin that process of healing, first of ourselves, and then the society at large. And that's the way I feel about it, the way I see it. And as you said, also, it incorporates every aspect of our lives. It really, really, truly does. I mean, the American economy would not be what it is today. America is not the world power that it is today without chattel slavery. America doesn't exist in the way that it does today without free labor, without the free labor that my ancestors provided in order to make this country as rich and powerful as it is. There's no way around that. My half of my family is traced back to the United States, and the other half is from Barbados. The Caribbean, just like the United States, were slave traders. Their economies were built on the backs of slaves. And it's not that long ago. It was not that long ago that, you know what I mean? Like there are people alive today that remember it, that remember the immediate aftermath. And we cannot forget that, because it really does continue to affect us every day of our lives. And anybody who says otherwise is they're just gaslighting. And that's not something that we can abide. I cannot abide that. So I can't realize the effect that PTSS is having on me and the people in my family and my friends and the people that who are in my life every day. Because to forget that is to eventually repeat it, and that is definitely something that I cannot abide.
Right. Yeah. So it's so funny because I talk about it a lot with different people as well. And we talk about how it is as far as like just Black people doing business together. How every time we try to get together and do something great, our history has been where they burnt our things down, or it's like some kind of way they tore us apart or tore us down to the point where if they're bombing, if they're burning stuff down, it automatically sends fear into the next person of color. So not making them want to really, do things or whatever. So
Right.
it's just crazy. And it's just crazy. Like all the stuff, that happens as far as us being people of color in the like you said, the traumatic, things or whatever. Like a lot of our family went to Detroit, because of how bad it was in the 60s and 70s. Like my grandmother, like her sisters and stuff. So they got tired of, the segregation and that kind of stuff. And I always ask people too, were we really ready for desegregation?
Right.
As people of color, because again, we were still trying to put together what it is to feel like to live in a
Yeah.
place that really don't want us to be here, So,
Exactly.
and then I think the biggest thing for me, because I do a lot of business, I do a lot of stuff, and I deal with a lot of people that look like me, is like you said, what are our steps to healing? What's the healing process, So
Right.
it's just crazy. Just all the things that's going on. Okay. So I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
that's
like,
okay.
so it's crazy, just the idea of it. And then me being from Chocolate City, and I see like it's a lot of us, that are together in the tribe, and then it's a lot of us that are still in certain neighborhoods where they're like, well, how did you do this? And I'm like, I'm from the same place you're from, and even though I look at it a lot different when I seen PTSS as well. Because at first I was like, well, if I can do it, you can do it. At first, that's how I felt until I realized that as single mothers, single fathers, or even people that are in 2-parent households where they're getting the bottom half of the stick as people of color, because you're not really getting paid what you're worth. And of course, if you are here in Atlanta, if you don't know somebody that knows somebody, you really, when you a person of color, you're really not getting the money that you're supposed to really survive,
Right.
So
Exactly.
when I realized that, I really stopped saying, because I was like, yeah, we're in the hole. We got a lot to go, and
Exactly.
thank God for the people that are fighting in the film industry,
Yeah.
to get us equal pay, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And unfortunately, it needs to happen in corporate America as well.
Absolutely. Of course. Absolutely. And
Because
and I think in corporate Americans in particular, I mean, the United States is not as it's not so much a democracy, a democratic nation as it is a capitalistic nation. So
right,
more than anything else, money speaks.
right,
And the way that and Afro Americans in this country have a lot of power in terms of economically. Like we if we are united, we can make waves with our dollars. We
right,
can make our voices heard with our dollars. Um, and that is a critical part of the discussion for us in terms of creating unity, is how do we
right,
want to spend our money? How do we want to bring each other up?
right,
What can we do to support one another in that way in order to make sure that other folks are paying attention to what we're doing
right,
and where we're spending our money,
right,
because that's where their focus is always, right?
right,
The corporate America's focus is strictly on what can I do to access that revenue? You know what I
right,
mean? And African Americans have been guiding American culture, popular culture, for decades.
right,
All the way from jazz, blues, hip hop. And they have, corporate America has really commodified Black culture globally.
right,
Yeah, I'm
Right.
here in Italy right now, and the most popular music on the radio is trap music. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
and but whereas the people that are listening to it here are obviously predominantly Caucasian, and
Right.
they could not, most of them could not tell you what trap music really was, where it came from,
Right.
who the originators of trap music were.
Right.
I had a chance to work with Ti just a couple months ago. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like Ti's first album, Trap Music, is essentially, the origin, and
Right.
people don't really acknowledge it the way that it deserves, in order for, I think, all of us to really benefit from it, for us to really benefit from it.
Right.
And that's something that
And
we have to change, just within our own culture, first and
right.
foremost.
Right. And that's why when people say trap music, first thing I think about is struggle music.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's the same with blues,
I,
and jazz comes out of that struggle.
yeah. And
It's the same struggle.
yeah. And it's so amazing. We're like such amazing people, to the point where if you really think about the history of us entertaining people, because that's like, it's in our nature, it's embedded in us
Hmm.
to entertain. Of the people back in the day that were marching and they were burning down things, and they will still have to go and perform in front of a whole like audience that's predominantly white, you know. And just to think about, like, now we have made a lot of stride, and I don't think we appreciate how much stride that it is, and we don't appreciate the entertainers that has still to like put on the face and still give it their all, because that's their job at the time, and still struggling as a person of color,
Right.
to still get equal. Or if like you basically still have to go through the back door, even though you're the
Yeah.
main headline artist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The filmmakers and like the things that people have paved the way. I don't think we fully grasp that concept of, like, right now. Um, us we see Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery got killed earlier this year, and you and I, we still on here. We still have to put our face on. You still have to do your job and work for this
That's exactly right.
industry.
Exactly right.
So the pain and the hurt of the PTSS, that is like every example of what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You
And it's
know?
exhausting. I mean,
Yes.
it's hard to relate to anyone outside of our culture genuinely, how genuinely exhausting it is, because it's not, you can't turn it off.
No.
I mean, and it was something that I didn't really realize I was suffering from, that I was dealing with, until I got to New York. So the story that I always tell, that it was another light bulb moment for me personally, was I was in film school at Hofstra University on Long Island, and I got an internship at Fuse TV network. Their offices are in Penn Station, across from Penn Station, and when they walked me in there and started taking me through some of my tasks, one of them was quality control. So they edit a show, I get the tape, put it in, and I watch it to make sure that the sound is okay, that the edits look fine, and to make sure that the light levels are within the set parameters, right? So there's a screen where you watch the show, and then attached to that screen is a small monitor called a scope. All right, and the scope is a scale, and it's just like it's like wavy lines that show you how bright or dark any part of the screen is. 100 is anything above 100. The line 100 is too bright. Anything below the zero line is too dark, and the line right in the middle at 50
Mhm.
is the normal luminance for Caucasian skin tone.
Oh wow.
That's how the person described it to me. And it hit me so hard in that moment that it's literally built into the machines. You
Wow.
understand? I mean, like, white culture white supremacy is built into the machine. 50, that 50 line is normal. Normal equals Caucasian.
Right.
And so my skin is not considered at all in that scale.
Right.
And I'm sitting there watching all these shows, like looking at this scope and being affected by that in a way that I wasn't really, at like whatever it was, 2021, I wasn't really ready to fully comprehend that. And it burns into my memory, and I still think about that all the time.
Right.
So when they say the system is not designed for us, that's literally true. They literally have built the system around white supremacy, inside and out.
Right.
So, when I think about people like Malcolm X during civil rights movement saying that, we need our own culture, our own society, that's what that means to me. That's what rings true to me. It's because they have theirs, you know what I mean? Like, white culture built theirs off of our work, off of our labor, and are continuing to profit from it and handing us the scraps still today.
Yes.
And you see it, and you see it in every aspect of our lives. Like even now during the coronavirus, right? Why are Afro-American people being affected so much more and having so far worse outcomes than everyone else in American society during coronavirus? Well, who are the essential workers that have to go out there and pick up trash and are predominantly working in hospitals and working in personal care and all these essential jobs that are typically lower wage a lot of the time. People that can't say no to the job. They can't say no. They can't afford to get sick. They can't afford to just skip out and stay home and socially distance because we are, those people are barely keeping their heads above water a lot of the time. So, I mean, that's how the system is designed. And that's why, there's not a lot of consideration, I think, from someone like the current president for saying that it's important to wear masks or it's important to do those things for other people. That's where I think the disconnect is. You don't wear a mask for you. You don't get a test for you. You wear it for other people because you might be exposed.
Right.
So it's a complete lack of empathy, I think, that ultimately perpetuates the problems that we see in our society. And that is a long road. That's really a long road. But we have to do the work. We have to do the work for ourselves first and foremost. I'm really just now at age 37, hunkering down and doing that work for myself through my art, through connecting with other artists, connecting with people like you, just and having these discussions, and which I'm exceedingly grateful for.
Yes, so am I. Cause they call me little Black Power. Be walking.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm just gonna start throw me on an Afro wig and a Black Power shirt on.
Yes, man. That power is real. That power is real.
Yes. So, sour milk. Let's get into sour milk. So, like you said, Jason is somebody that I personally had the opportunity to work for, and he is truly a gift.
Absolutely.
And so I know that's how you and I connected as well. And through Anthony as well.
Yeah, Anthony Arpage and Jason Louder. Yeah, those two gentlemen are really the visionaries behind Sour Milk. And it's been evolving ever since we kind of started bringing folks together for it. And Body and Sun is really kind of the first offering from the collective and the movement, really. Sour Milk, in my mind, the way that we talk about it today is really about creating a movement to help folks like us create a safe space to have these discussions through art, through discussion, in order to begin that healing process, to really pave that path towards healing. So, and it goes beyond films. It started out as an anthology of short films, all focused on post-traumatic slave syndrome, and it continues to be that as we continue to produce films. But for me and for us, I think the goal is also to broaden the scope of the effort and the movement to incorporate all different types of media and essentially create a platform. My goal is for Sour Milk to really become a platform where people from various disciplines can come to have this discussion. Right. I think our goal is for Sour Milk to be the place, the definitive space for Black people, people of color, to come and have this discussion through art, through writing, through poetry, whatever method you want, you see fit to express your own experience, to ask questions, to execute your journey on this path. We would love for Sour Milk to be that place to which you turn in order to find out about, to put your finger on the pulse of where the discussion is right now, and to participate in it, to add your 2 cents, to add your experience, your vision to that discussion, and to help other people heal and to bring other people up, and ultimately for it to become a source for corporate America or larger, media outlets to find talent, to find directors, to find writers, to find cinematographers of color, by seeing the work that is being exhibited on that platform, so that we can infuse ourselves into those larger markets, into those larger media outlets, and add our voices to what they're all doing. Because when they say they want to be more inclusive, I mean, most of the time they don't know where to look to find that inclusivity, because they've never looked before. They haven't thought to look. So now is a great time to provide those sources for people to look for. Sporus is another group that I'm a part of. It's primarily for camera technicians of color, cinematographers, operators, camera assistants, things like that. And it's the same, it's a very similar idea, is to create a database, a place where people of color can come talk, to talk shop, to kind of, talk about gear and what everybody's working on, but also for a place for people to turn to, or corporate America, or for large media outlets to turn to to find Black talent. And there is no shortage of Black talent out there, not just here in the States. Sporus has members all over the globe, and obviously I'm here kind of intercontinentally doing what I do, and trying to bridge those gaps as much as possible. Yeah, Sour Milk is completely focused on that. So anybody who wants to get involved should really reach out. Let us know what you do, and love to help. We'd love to have folks help us allow it to grow as much as possible.
Right. Yeah, I need to get involved. I said it before. I'm ready now. Look.
Yes, you will. You will. Yeah. No doubt. Yes.
Yeah. But thank you so much for being a part. Thank you so much for just not being scared of the conversation, because you work in a certain environment as well. So, and then a lot of us have to be careful, unfortunately, what we're saying and what we're doing, so thank you for, just being yourself and coming on the platform and sharing with us this information and talking about a much needed thing that we need as well to start the healing process.
Absolutely.
Because that's what's needed. So our next generation of kids, they can be like, yo, baby, they want, of course, they know who they are, but they're not afraid of the opportunity of leaving the states for a better opportunity to
Exactly.
expand as well. Because
Exactly.
that's something as people of color that we really need to get out of our own way when it comes to that, because we are a lot afraid of success. Because we're always stuck in survival mode, and we always, want to have that feeling of catching and making sure we're doing it perfectly and right, because
That's right.
we're under scrutiny at all times.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No,
So, but
I thank you so much for having me and letting me say my little piece about it, and help
yeah,
spreading the word about sour milk and body and sun, because I really my goal is to create the conversation,
all right,
so that people can discover things for themselves in themselves that they maybe didn't know were there, and to find, just a sense that there is a real connection between all of us that are having these similar experiences. The next stop, I think, for Body and Sun, or one of the next stops will be in Barbados. We
yes,
just got accepted into the Barbados Visual Media Festival, which will take place
awesome.
in either March of April or next year. So it really means the world to me to have the opportunity to bring the film and the discussion to, the place of my ancestry on that side of my family, to have the discussion
Right,
with, my literal family and my broader, um, family of the African diaspora in the Caribbean.
right.
Yeah, so my goal is just to spread that message of healing as much as possible. So thank you for allowing me to do that here tonight.
You're more than welcome. So, let us know where we can follow you at on all social media platforms.
Yeah, I am at FLOBY2K on Instagram, at Floby2K1. And website is chrisanthonyhamilton.com. Everything is on there. So yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. And if they want to get involved in the sour milk,
Yeah, hit me up on Instagram at Floby2K1. The website is being built right now, and all the social media is being built. So yeah, we're gonna be coming for y'all in 2021 for sure. So we wanna bring everybody in.
all right. All right, guys. So you can follow us on all social media platforms at Urbanish, Urbanish Digital, as well. So make sure you guys go and check us out on the awesome interviews that we have been doing lately. So until next time, stay positive.